more compassionate.
Okay, we are recording.
Welcome. We're going to call this meeting to order. I have 7:04 p.m. So we've had an interesting last couple of days in terms of weather, and I would like to thank our security and maintenance. I understand that we had two security officers, Randall and Dave, that worked 24 hours straight. And I really know that we all appreciate their dedication. So thank you. And then our maintenance staff came in, and some of them slept in the bunkhouse, worked 12-hour shifts, and kept our roads really in great shape. So thank you guys. It means a lot. I'd next like to talk about an issue that has been percolating in the back of my mind for some time. And I think it's a very important issue for Hideaway Hills. We talked some time ago and started to look at these issues that I'm about to bring up, but we didn't move them along as far as we could and probably should. And that has to do with our emergency and fire services here in Hideaway Hills. It's a concern. I think run times are kind of slow. We have Hawking County that responds to most of Hideaway Hills, and it's a volunteer force. And I know that they do the best that they can. But run times are fairly long. Fairfield, we have Bremen that responds, and they're a little closer, and I'm sure those run times are a little better. So we're looking at emergency services in terms of squads and fire. Because right now, as everyone knows, if you live in Hideaway Hills and you have a fire in your home, it can be disastrous. Our squad times are also long. So what does that mean? Well, if you are unlucky enough to have a brain bleed, every minute matters. If you are unlucky enough to have a heart attack, minutes mean muscle. It is, I think, imperative for our community to look at our emergency and fire services and see what we can do to address them. To that end, over time, we have a really talented community here. And I would like to draw from our community to help us find different options to move forward with this. We want to do so in a fashion that is working with and cooperative with our two counties. But it is something that we must do. We have accidents here in the summer. We also have people who live here, and the demographics are generally over the age of 40. And I think you all know what that means. So I wanted to let you know that this is something on my mind, and I think it's very important, and I'm hopeful that we can address this as a community, and really would like your support in doing so. On a different note, I'd like to work with and want to talk with the management committee and the long range planning committee and our board to get together as a group, maybe with just representatives from each group, to look at prioritizing our key initiatives over the upcoming 1 to 3 years. So Jim, that's something that I would like to talk more with you about, and Ken Yost, who is the chair for long range planning.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
But anyway, that's all that I have for the president's report. Oh, so anyway, I jumped right in with the president's report and I went out of order. So is there a motion to adopt this agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. That's Jim Lloyd, second.
Second.
Tim, thank you. All those in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Thank you. Cheryl, do you want to help us then with the board minutes?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the January 2021 meeting minutes.
I so move.
We have,
Cheryl made the motion. Cabot, is that a second?
Yes.
all those in favor of accepting the January board minutes, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Board meeting minutes accepted. Cheryl, do you have any correspondence?
There's no correspondence this month.
All right, thank you. Treasurer's report, Cabot.
Yeah, it was a fairly low-key month, as January usually is. Our two biggest movers and shakers, health and wellness, with the BRIC campaign at $2,400 additional dollars. Communications for the directory, an additional $900. We started at $141,523, and as of the 31st, we had moved to $144,836.13. So I so move that the treasurer's report for the committees be accepted.
Do we have a second? Was that
I
you?
second.
Okay, second by Cheryl. All those in favor of accepting the treasurer's report, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, treasurer's report accepted. Jim, management committee.
Thank you, Madam President. For the month of January report, or actually February report, reporting on what we did January, the deer management plan was slower than expected, with only 7 deer harvested. I think we did learn a little bit about how to execute that, and hopefully can make it better next year. Lake Eagle Claw plan, the management committee has agreed with 2LMN's recommendation to raise the spillway on the lake back up about 24 inches. This will be done as weather permits. This will only affect the high water mark in the lake in the spring wet season. Lake of the Four Season Maintenance Plan, Management Committee member Rex Eberly has put together a subcommittee of the Management Committee to partner with the Lakes Committee and the board to address ongoing maintenance of the lake. Equipment needs, I have emailed out our priorities for equipment replacement for the next 5 years out of the depreciation fund. I sent that to the board earlier today. Obviously, this gets adjusted as different equipment breaks down. We were trying to use our Avendra purchasing group for everything we can to save money. We're targeting spending about $97,400 this year, with the Jacobson Fairway mower already approved and ordered. The management committee is looking to cover the mailboxes at the Bora Hill gate and put some asphalt down to make the area safer for members to get their mail. It's currently the only uncovered mail facility we have, so it's kind of in an odd spot, but we're looking to put a lean-to type facility so that people can walk up there and not slip and their mail's not getting wet and they're not standing out in the rain getting their mail. The management committee is still looking at options to store packages. We've outgrown the current shed that was intended to be temporary, and we do not want to leave the cargo container in its current location. We will present to the community our plans once we make a decision. And finally, the management committee is looking to improve our security in the hills. We're actively looking at RFID gate systems again and expect to move on that project in the spring or early summer. I will advise the board when we get to a point of making a recommendation for a purchase of that system. Any questions?
Hey, Jim, just, I know that was very high on the priority list. How do you plan on paying for that? How's that?
The RFID?
Yes.
We'll have to pay, it'll have to come out of the capital fund. Because we're not replacing something we currently have. This is a new investment for the club.
Okay, thank you. I just was curious how you were planning on paying for it.
I was
Jim,
hoping you'd donate money.
yeah, Jim, I also wanted to let you know, back before we asked for the assessment increase, Marty Bendokas, Ginger, Annie, myself, we went through the last 5 years of incident reports and looked at issues like security breaches and things like that in the hills. I've compiled some of that information and I'm happy to provide that to you if you
Okay.
want to share
Yes.
that with the community prior to asking for this, deciding on that expenditure. But it's pretty substantial, the incidents that have occurred over the last 5 years.
Yes. Yeah, if you would, because we'll need to, I'm assuming we need to sell this to the board and manage in the community, but I think it's been hugely supportive for most people in the community just to try to have that enhancement where the security clickers aren't getting passed down and passed out and just generally abused. So, any other questions?
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it, Jim. Jeff?
Yes, ma'am, Madam President and Board. So let's start with delinquency totals. Delinquencies as of January 15th of this year were 31,361. As of yesterday, 23,386. And just over $6,600 of that is just in the 30-day period. So not truly what we would consider delinquent to where anybody's getting penalized. Calls on those will start tomorrow. Road delinquencies, and I'm sorry, that's general assessment delinquency. Road delinquency, January 15th was 3,160. Road delinquency as of yesterday was 2,210. Do note that we did have one foreclosure drop off that reduced both of those from January's levels as well. Dam assessment account total after the most recent payment is sitting at 125,529, both accounts combined. Next is lodge and clubhouse updates. Chris Booth will be back another week and a half or so from her leave. We are currently recruiting as of yesterday. I had it posted on Indeed for a chef and a front of house supervisor for the lodge. And then we are, for the clubhouse, we're also looking at different suppliers through Avendra for merchandise and apparel, so that we can actually have, whether it be winter or summer golfing type apparel down there for sale, and it doesn't end up in somebody's basement when from what doesn't sell at a fundraiser, which is what I understand has been going on. So we'll look to that, as well as increasing the merchandise selection that we have down there outside of the apparel. Jim Sigafus and I had talked about and are trying to get more information on a payroll protection program loan. You may know that we're in round 2 now, the government authorized round 2 starting sometime in January. Application deadline is the end of March. Our tax structure, a 501c7, was not one that could partake in that program as of round 1. We're trying to find out if it is as of round 2, and looking for right about $49,000-$50,000 for that. I sent the board information on that yesterday, and Jim, please correct me if I'm inaccurate on any of this or miss anything, but it's basically a completely forgivable loan as long as 60% is spent on payroll, and then you can use it for everything to include food cost, utilities, purchase of different products, not to include equipment. And Jim tells me doesn't even necessarily need to be used at one location like the lodge. But the lodge had the biggest revenue disparity, so that's, if we are able to apply, that's where we will apply for.
It's basically all about just paying payroll dollars is what, and using it for payroll dollars. You know, if you can justify it in payroll dollars, that's all you have to justify. So.
Yeah, so last I heard from the banker, he does not think that there's been any changes as far as our structure goes, so there's a good chance that we won't be eligible for it, but we're going to at least try, and it is a no collateral loan. Office staffing, we've got Jessica Hedges hired, doing very well, catching on very quickly. Probably another 2 to 3 weeks before we start recruiting for that part-time position that was approved in the budget, just so that we can make sure she's completely up to speed on everything she needs to be before we start rolling in training for another person. And then golf course chemicals. We are about ready to move forward with that. I'll be presenting that. It's a cost between $10,000 and $11,000. I'll present that at the management committee meeting on Tuesday. Going through a Vendra versus the usual supplier, we're saving about $4,000 year over year. If you're looking at apples to apples, so. We are hoping the same thing will take place when we start looking for a zero-turn mower from a vendor as well. We are obtaining those quotes currently. And we expect, and this was not foreseen at the time of the budget, but expecting that both labor for maintenance as it relates to treatment for snow and ice, as well as the road aggregate, that will end up going over budget this first quarter. Hopeful that we can make it up at the end of the year. But certainly, I don't think anybody foresaw the level of weather that we were going to get. Certainly nothing like the last couple of years from what I hear. In fact, I think last time we had something like this, we called it a polar vortex, didn't we? Wasn't that the term about 10 years ago? And then finally, we are for anybody that was listening to the management committee meeting this last week, we have 3 revolvers, Smith & Wesson revolvers, that were in the safe and have been for the last 40 plus years. The security department at Hideaway Hills was apparently once commissioned peace officers, reserve deputies for one of the counties. I believe it was Hocking County. That ended late 60s, early 70s when the sheriff's department continuously called them and they were off for property quite often, or so the legend goes. So those, rather than having them sitting in a safe, rusting, those are being looked at by antique gun dealers. We wanted to go with a licensed gun dealer for that versus take on the liability of just selling them outright personal sale. So we've got one $675 for all 3 of them, including the holsters, the ammo pouches, and one Sam Brown belt is the highest bid that we got out of 3. So I want to thank Steve Cundiff for going out and getting the other 2 bids, and then Rick went ahead and got the winning bid from someone that lives near him who's a licensed gun dealer. We will, once those have been turned over to the dealer and we have check in hand, we will get the information out to all the members in case anybody wants to purchase a little piece of Hideaway Hills history from that gun dealer. Okay, and that is all I've got. Any questions?
Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. So on to committee business and reports. Let's start with Tim.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, well, we'll move on then, but thanks anyway. Mary Beth.
Yes, I have a couple things. One is regarding the ACC. Lori Cook is resigning, or would like to resign as chair of the ACC, and we are advertising for a new position on that. So I want to first make a motion to accept Lori's resignation, if anybody would second that.
I'll second that, Jim Lloyd.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting Lori Cook's resignation, please say aye.
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 Any nays? All right, resignation accepted.
And I'll keep you guys informed on who is going to be filling the new position that's open and who will be the new chair. That's not yet been established at this point. Regarding communications, Ginger Reed has done the directory 6 times now. So that would be every other year she's done this directory. It's a lot of work. She's not paid for it. And she wants to resign. She wanted to do it last time, but forgot. So now she's like, before I forget, I need to tell you. So the new directory is actually at the printers now. And she has finished it, but there's been a big turnover in members, so it's required extra work. I'm not sure, maybe we'll need to have some discussion. Do we want this just to go solely online now? I think there are some members that like to have the hard copy of the directory. She got about, I'm going to say around 3,100 in advertising dollars for this directory, which was 300 less than the prior 2 years. And now with the new website, I don't know how many people still use the hard copy and want access. So, think about it. We can email about it and decide if we want to continue with it, having a hard copy or not, or if we just want to transition to online. And we'll have to figure out the dynamics so, that maybe the office doesn't get hit with having to do, the extra work associated with that.
So Mary Beth, she's not resigning from the communications committee chair, right? She just wants help with the directory.
She doesn't want to do the directory any longer. She's still going to do the echo.
Right. Okay.
And so, yeah, that's what she's still planning on doing.
Mary Beth, didn't we have a designer? I think I saw something, I think I signed a check for a designer to come in and do that, right?
Yeah, so there is a graphic designer. I talked to her about that. She's going to see if she can get the disc and provide it to me. Because, I think that part of it we can get covered and taken care of. I just have to sort of look at what the disc shows and how much work that's going to be. So yes, Cabot, we paid the graphic designer $680, but there's also a printer. So there's 3 parts to it. Ginger's part's free. And then we pay these other 2 individuals. Finally, then on the website, you guys may have seen the new website was launched on Monday, and there's still going to be additional work on it. Ron Street, who is chairing that committee, he wrote me a note and asked me to tell the board that they're planning to update the lodge page as information comes to them. The financial page is getting reorganized, and it'll make old content accessible, but they're going to organize that. The Echo page will also be reorganized, and old content will remain available. Still working on adding a news feed and content to the homepage. They're going to also add some forms for people to sign up online for things like the golf tournaments, and information that's emailed can have a direct contact person that'll be listed on the new website. They're going to look into adding electronic payment options on there in the future, and information possibly for committees, road fees, etc. So people may be able to pay through the website as well. But I think they're taking a little break right now, and they're getting feedback from members. And so far, it's been really positive. A lot of people submitted photos that they wanted on there, and take a look. And if you guys have feedback, they're happy to accept that. That's all I have.
Thanks a lot, Mary Beth. And if you haven't looked at the new website, do take a peek. It's got some pretty cool pictures on it. So check it out. Cabot.
And just for everybody out there looking in tonight, what is that website now? The new website? That new website is
It's still the same URL. It's hideawayhillsclub.com.
Oh,
So
okay.
no change in the website address. It's just the content updated.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I know you may find this shocking, everybody, but I don't really have much to say with our committees. We're good. Everybody seems good. We are planning on chapel this summer. And of course, the Arts Fest will be coming in July, hopefully. You know, we get all the vaccinations or whatever, and that'll take place for the organic garden. The date has been approved. So that's really all I have tonight.
Thanks, Cabot. Annie?
I don't have anything for long-range planning, and the only item I have for the Lakes Committee is under our new business topics.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Jim Lloyd?
Well, I'll make it simple and easy. I don't have nothing from nobody.
Okay, got that. All right.
That's the airport committee and the range committee.
Oh, thank you.
Poor Jim, I'm sorry. I'm sure you feel kind of ignored, don't you?
I'm
All
used
right.
to it.
Cheryl?
I also have nothing for the barn and the pool committee tonight. So,
Oh, all right. All right. Eric?
Activities for youth, I actually have two motions for them. First, I'd like to get a motion I'd like to make the motion that on April 3rd, that they are able to have the Easter egg hunt at the shelter house at 11:30 with activities starting at 10:30. So that's my first motion. April 3rd, Easter egg hunt.
Do we have a second?
I do. I second.
Cabot? All those in favor of the Easter egg hunt on April 3rd, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
And then the second part is to request $150 for eggs, dyeing supplies, potting soil, and seeds for an event the Tuesday or Thursday before the Easter egg hunt to be held at the clubhouse to put all this together.
Do we have a second for Eric's motion
For an
for
egg
the
stuffing event with $150 approved.
$150 egg stuffing event?
I'll
Second?
second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the egg stuffing event and $150, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
That's all I got.
All right, thank you. I think that moves us to Tom.
Nothing for tennis, nothing for social. The only thing I have is health and wellness had another work day Saturday. We had a really good turnout and they're making really good progress. And that's it.
So, Tom, just a quick question. When do you think the interior will be complete? This fall?
They're shooting for opening this fall.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you. So that moves us to open forum. Is anyone present for open forum?
Yes, we are.
Okay, please identify yourselves, please.
Sorry. We're pulling up our video now. This is John and Shanna Gordon. We live at 390 Osage.
Okay, and you realize we have a maximum of 5 participants, and each participant has 3 minutes.
Yes. Do we have others waiting too?
I'm not sure.
Okay. I will be concise and may have to just not get everything said, but I will be following up with the office.
Okay.
We come to you today. We bought our house here in March of 2016. It's myself, my husband, and our 4 children. Right away, we started contributing, volunteering in committees, and even chaired the youth committee. About that time, I went to a board meeting to request permission to host a event for our youth committee. And after getting that approval, we were surprised to see that one of our neighbors, Mr. Malone, chose to use the open forum time to make accusations against my family and complain that my children's laughter was too loud. He was told at that time that the noise ordinance did not come into effect until 11 p.m. His complaint was in the 4 o'clock hour, and it was in the time, you know, where the season is getting dark very early. And I was very clear that my children must be in it dark. So this is literally the hour and a half that they had directly following school. We went through the board, talked with the president at the time, requested that Mr. Malone please meet with us and the president at the time, Mr. Patassin, for mediation. Let's try to talk this out. There's got to be a misunderstanding. This is not that serious. He declined to meet with us. He was quiet for a long time. And then in November, just a few months ago, a tree fell on our home while my children and I were out in the yard doing yard work. The trunk missed us, fortunately, but the branches fell on us and caused injury to us. This is neither here nor there, but to say that it caused severe anxiety and PTSD in my family. Mr. Malone, at that time, the tree stripped the electric from our home, and we were without power for weeks. We had a generator maintaining, of course, heat in this cold winter month. It was December when this complaint was made. Mr. Malone, who was a part-timer here, was visiting his home and was disturbed by the sound of our generator. It was offensive to him that we were trying to keep our family warm. He also called security. They said they're not breaking any rules. There's nothing we can do about them running a generator in the afternoon. He had then didn't get the response he wanted, so he called the sheriff. The sheriff came and spoke with us and said, you know, told us what the nature of the complaint was, and we said that he's unwilling to talk with us because the sheriff suggested, why don't you just talk to him? We said he was unwilling, so the sheriff walked us over to the house and had the conversation with him. It didn't really go anywhere, but he seemed satisfied at the explanation of why our power was out. He had the assumption that we maybe didn't pay our electric bill and suggested that that was why we were running a generator. The officer told him had he spoke to us directly, he would have seen that there's clearly a tree that was stripped the power from the house. It's very obvious if he had come and spoken to us. At that time, he didn't get, you know, what he needed from that. So he called the health department and told the health department that we don't have running water or heat in our home for our children, which is clearly not true because the generator that he was complaining about is clearly providing these things. He also said the sanitation in our home smelled terribly in December when it was cold. We went and showed that we had just had it pumped.
Shannon, I'm sorry, you're running out of time. I'm sorry.
Okay. This is what I'll just end with. There's so much more to the story, but we are asking that Hideaway Hills provide to us all of the complaints that he has issued against us and other members of this community so that our attorney can put this together and prove a pattern. I have it on good authority. We are not his first targets. As spoken from a member of the management committee, and I also had another neighbor come to me and explain the issues that he had with him as well.
Thank you, and I would suggest that you work with Jeff Harper, our general manager,
Okay.
and we can provide you what we have.
Okay. I thank you for that. We are doing every channel at this point. We're not the people to call and whine to security at every instance, but with the constant tit for tat, he's given us no other option. So we're going to have to go on the offensive and start making the calls and pursue this to the furthest degree to get to peace back in our home, because we've been told now that we've had fines issued against us. And if there's another instance within 2 years, then there will be further problems. Well, he's been given a target now. He's complained twice in 2 months. And just last week, he was caught calling my dog to his home to try to get photo evidence that our dog was on his yard, where there are no markers of any of the property lines or anything like that in the middle of the woods.
Well, I appreciate you sharing, and do talk with Jeff, and I'm sure that we'll be speaking.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Anyone else for open forum? Okay, we will close open forum and we will move to unfinished business. And please, if you are not a part of the board, please mute yourself and stop your video. Please stay with us, but mute and stop your video. So, unfinished business, we'll move forward with the update on the, I think there's someone that still has their video going. I don't know. Are you Susan Frost?
I see Susan Frost.
Okay, hey Susan, can you take your video off there? Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so next up is update on the Bremen post office issues. I think that Jim and Jeff have information on that. As in Jim Lloyd.
Jim, did you want to go first, or you want me to? I can just cover the whole thing if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll let you go ahead because I started it and it was up to you to finish it. So I'll let you finish it.
Very good. Jim actually had a conversation with the postmaster at the Bremen post office first, and gave the individual some specific instances. Was told that they believe they have a problem employee, and we're going to be working to deal with that. I made a phone call a couple of days later, had a conversation, less specific, but just made her aware that I was representing several members, several of their customers, and that we were having a significant number of issues. She did not go into as much detail with me about the nature of her problem employee, but did promise to follow up and get it fixed. Now, Jim, I think you're still out of town, right? So has not been around to tell me if he's experienced any other issues. But I'd ask membership, anybody that uses that Bremen post office, to let me know if you experience anything, and I will continue to follow up with that with the postmaster.
I got somebody's mail today.
What's that?
I got somebody's mail in my mailbox today.
Oh, did you? Okay. Were they at least a member of Hideaway Hills?
Yeah, and I contacted them, but
Okay. Okay.
Jeff, if I can, she did say that this was a substitute guy, and she was not happy with him. However, I just figured that maybe if we shook the bushes a little bit, he might fall out of them and land on his head.
Fair enough.
That's an interesting way to put it, Jim. Anything else on the post office, the Bremen post office?
I do want to say a couple of things in favor of him because she was very helpful. She realized it, and she was very cooperative with me. Also, I don't want her to get the blame for it. If she's got a problem, obviously she has to fix it, but it's a little hard to fix something when you're a government employee about another government employee, as we all know. But maybe this will shake her up a little bit and at least shake him up.
Well, I really appreciate you guys, your work with this. Thank you. Next up, and maybe we can have Mary Beth and Jim Lloyd both chip in on this item. It's the smoking area at the lodge and the new non-smoking area at the clubhouse, and maybe you can also chip in, Jeff. So who wants to start out?
Do you want to go, Jim?
You're better looking than I am. You go ahead.
Is he talking to Jeff?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I know. All right. So yes, we had a smoking committee that of 6 individuals at Hideaway Hills, and we came to a unanimous decision and made a recommendation to management, who seemed interested in and accepting of the recommendation. Essentially, what we were talking about was leaving the rule in place that the deck of the lodge is non-smoking, and that there would be an area created in front for people who smoke or non-smoke, sort of a little beer garden area kind of thing. And it would be done in phases, same as the clubhouse. There would be a non-smoking, sort of the opposite, a non-smoking area developed at the clubhouse. And it might start with pea gravel. It might start with, just sort of a simple deck. But we know money is something we have to be concerned about. And so we're trying to be sensitive to that. But if it's well accepted, we can then continue to add to that as appropriate. But the idea is to try and leave the current rules in place regarding the areas that are designated currently as smoking and non-smoking, so we don't have to modify or change rules, but allow an opportunity for smokers to feel comfortable at the lodge and non-smokers to feel comfortable at the clubhouse, so everybody can be happy. And hopefully it's good for business, it's good for the community. And so our little humble group came up with, like, let's try this and see how it goes, and do it in stages. So Jim and Jeff, feel free to add whatever you like there.
I'll jump in here real quick. Basically, what I really want to do is thank Jeff for coming up with the idea. Sometimes it's great to have somebody from the outside looking in, and nobody on the committee had thought of what he was saying until he brought it up, and then immediately everybody thought, "Hey, that's a good idea." So thanks, Jeff.
My pleasure. And all we need first of all is for the ground to thaw so we can actually do some tilling and level things out a little bit. I will say one thing that Rick had brought up that we need to be cognizant of at the lodge is that the area right off the road going toward the building is actually graded as it is for water flow. So the steeper grade we don't need to be doing anything with, but really the area that's semi-level right now, there's some grass there, I'm not sure what the landscaping is, but it certainly doesn't look good in the wintertime at least, that we'd have to till up, play around with, and again start off with pea gravel. Let's see how that works. Next, and this is speaking specifically of the lodge and the area for people who smoke and people who don't smoke, to be able to gather in kind of a sidewalk cafe setting, if you will. Get some nicer tables in the picnic areas, which to me would be really the biggest expense up front, along with a little bit of our own labor. Potentially some umbrellas just to keep the heat off out there, and have it 25 feet away from the walkway, which is right about where the windows end of from inside the dining room. That will keep anybody from being wafted with smoke. Even if I'm out there smoking a cigar, you won't get blasted in the face with smoke at 25 feet away. We looked at quite a few areas like Austin, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, most of them were in Texas, but cities and municipalities that have mandated no smoking within a certain distance from entrances, and the furthest is 25 feet in most cases, unless you're talking about hospitals and colleges. If that works, and then same thing at the clubhouse, a non-smoking area out front to the left of the walkway. We've got a smaller area to work with there, but Rick convinced me that we can work with that. if the pea gravel works, if the setting works, if it's popular, you know, at the lodge, we're certainly talking about having someone go out and serve those tables. Then we can take the next step, which may or may not be a floating deck. And I know deck is not a popular word with this community, but if it is done right, knowing that it's not elevated, it is floating just, you know, if even 12 inches, then 12 inches above the level of the ground, just so that the water can flow underneath. Then potentially that could be the next move. We may need to play around with landscaping a little bit. I will say I did hear one comment that, oh, but are we going to ruin the aesthetics of the front? Ruin? No. Change? Absolutely. But Rick tells me that shrub has been there for the better part of 40 years. So maybe it's time for a little bit of change there. But we'll continue to work through it, with the hope being that April 15th or so we will have that area ready to go when we plan on reopening the lodge as a full service restaurant.
Right.
So just for clarity, so that area in front of the lodge, but 25 feet from the path, that will be a smoking area.
Correct.
Okay. And then to the left of the door at the clubhouse where the gravel would be put, that would also be a smoking area.
That would be a non-smoking area.
Non-smoking. The smoking then would remain back in the back?
The shelter house, and then on that little deck in the back. Yeah, that's the intent. Really trying not to have to make a ton of changes, you know, and kind of throw people off. There's absolutely no reason that front area at the lodge can't be used for something like that, and absolutely no reason that we can't serve that area and treat it just like an extension of the restaurant. Particularly in socially distanced COVID times. Frankly, you know, we lose quite a few seats in that restaurant right now. If we want to make any revenue once we get it going, then we need all the seats that we can find. And we don't need to be turning anybody away that just because they smoke or don't smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you for the update, everyone. And that leads us then
And
to,
one quick
Yes.
thing, this will not require a rule change. The rule changes that we have are exactly just going to stay the same, so we won't need to change the rules on this at all.
that's correct. Anything else on the topic? The only thing I would say is that in regard to what you just said, Jim, we would need to make clear that the new area in front of the clubhouse is non-smoking. Maybe later we would add that as a rule, but that's the only thing that I can see. There would be no change. There might be an addition, if that makes sense. All right, let's move on then to the electronic voting option. Annie, I think you had worked on FAQs, and I know you've sent those out, so you want to lead us on with the topic, please?
Yeah, so I didn't have the actual code revisions included in our packet again, as they were in last month's packet, but did have them include the FAQs that I emailed all of you last week. I didn't receive any additional questions that maybe I missed, but if there are others, feel free to tell me. But basically wanted to outline and answer all the questions that some of you raised at our last meeting, and in addition to some additional questions that I thought of. These would be very helpful, obviously, if we vote to put this in as an issue on the ballot to update the code for members to vote on, then we could certainly use these FAQs to share with the membership as well. One thing I didn't comment on last time, I wanted to comment on tonight, was the last question there. It talks about if someone's not able to vote online because they either have some sort of technical problem or they can't get it to work or didn't get the information, they could either vote to have it resended to them, or they could still vote in person. And the nice thing about this, which is different from our absentee ballots, is that when we send out absentee ballots, we have no way of checking whether or knowing whether or not that ballot was mailed back in, which is the reason why we don't allow in-person voting. But with this, there would be a record of whether or not the member voted. So we would be able to say, yeah, we can see you didn't vote. You can vote in person on the day of the meeting. And there were so many people that came up last year, having been the secretary and overseeing the voting last year. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many people we had to send away that had their absentee ballots in hand. So that is at least one nice thing that I didn't think to comment on last time that I wanted to make sure I explained tonight. Are there any other questions that you guys have that maybe are not included here?
I do have a comment. I think that we would have a lot more people participating because I'm kind of concerned that people who couldn't physically attend to vote, as well as those that you just mentioned, Annie, with the absentee ballots that, came walking up with them or just said, oh, the heck with it, I'm not going to get it in time. We don't get the level of participation that maybe we could if we add this electronic option. And it is just that, an option, and it's an addition. So,
yeah, we're not removing any existing options at all.
Right.
Yep.
So I think our next task here in front of us is to actually vote.
Linda, I have a comment. I looked through the questions, and to me, they look more like a wish list of the things that we should strive to have. I think we need more information, though, such as what other communities do something like this, as well as one or two other companies that would be performing this task for us, so that we might be able to vet them. Right now, I think that the information that was provided looks good, but I'd like to know that there's companies out there that meet those requirements that we're putting forth.
Annie,
So I
address?
can tell you there's already software that I've vetted that does this. So I think it's, you can say it's the chicken or the egg, whichever you want. I mean, if you want, I can bring forth and show how that software works and show how it's run in this manner. Or, I mean, it's really reason I didn't do that was because it's a moot point unless the membership votes to make this rule change, right? It's not even an option at this point if there's no rule change.
Okay. But if I'm when the election time comes around, I'm going to want to know that information, is all I'm saying. I think we need to add to your list of additional information so people can see and touch and know what other communities are doing, and that there are actually organizations that we can vet that will do this for us. I mean, we're talking about our vote here, and I look at it and take this seriously.
Yep, as do I. We could run, and actually, this is something I was thinking we might do, is actually run a little mock voting so people could see how it works. And we could share the results, and the office, which would be the ones who would be administering this, they would oversee setting up any kind of a ballot vote and distributing the results. They could share what they see in the system.
So Annie, would you be, sorry, Linda, Annie, would you be willing to, I think you're asking us as the board to put it on the ballot for people to vote on at the next election cycle. Am I correct on that? Is that what you're asking? Okay. And so, but
yeah, this wouldn't actually be done during now and then, but we could run just so that to Eric's point, people could see how it works and vet the criteria that's been laid out in the FAQs.
Well, so between now and the time it's voted on, would you be willing to answer member questions or give them more information, or maybe do one of the online, the Zoom conferences that even live, or a Zoom thing, information so the members know what they're getting or voting on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what Eric says, I mean, if people want to know it's working in other communities, that makes sense. And hopefully you could provide that between now and the time they vote on it.
Yeah.
But we are not voting on a particular software package or company or anything like that. What we're voting
Correct.
on is the ability to offer this, and then we would need to, in the meantime, vet different software. And I
So
think you already
we're
have, haven't you?
Yeah, but we as a board are not voting to implement this or approve this. We are voting to put this on
The
as a
ballot.
ballot issue. Yeah, we are not, we cannot change the code of regulations, as you guys know. That has to go to membership.
Right.
So we're just voting to agree whether or not making it a ballot issue in August. Updating the code.
If I'm not mistaken, we do not have to vote for this until, I know we don't have to vote for it until the March meeting, could be even the April meeting. So some of this information could probably be done between now and then. Just so that before we do vote on it, everybody understands that we have vetted it and we've looked at it and we know what we're going to do if it passes. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we have to actually vote on this until April. And if anybody knows for sure, they can correct me on that. But I think it'll have to be April.
I don't know. It depends. Maybe we can do it in March.
That's what I was actually thinking. If we could take 30 days and get some of this information out, not necessarily run a vote, but or run a mock program, but at least so that we would know what we're getting, or the members would know what we were getting into, and like Eric said, you get time to check and see if any of the other LACE communities have done this. I think actually it's a good idea if we just wait on this at least a month before we actually make a vote to put it on the ballot.
I think that's a good idea, Jim. And thank you, Annie, for your work on this so far. I did see a question pop up on our screen. If it were to go on a ballot, if it was to be approved, what kind of expense are we talking about here? Any idea?
It's like less than $100 an election.
Okay. That's not too much.
Really, all we're trying to do is offer a convenient way for our members to vote.
Right.
That's all. It's just another way to have their voice heard. But we do need to, we'll do some more review, but we can talk about how to get to the other lakes communities. Maybe Jeff, you can help with that. And then
Absolutely. I'll get it out to the Ohio Lakes Community Association.
And I know that you'll work to look at some of the software packages, but again, I know you already have, so. But we can talk more about this in the March meeting. So we'll be prepared to do that. Do you have anything else, Eric? Okay. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Nothing under old business. Oh, sorry, we're up. I just jumped a couple of items. Let's reaffirm the e-votes. Annie, could you help with that, please?
Yeah, I'll read the 8-0 votes first. January 22nd, approve of the Activities for Youth Committee to host a painting class in the Great Room on February 28th, 2021 at 2 p.m. and for up to $150 from their committee funds for paint, drop cloths, and cleaning supplies. January 24th, approve the reimbursing Jamie Longwell $69.07 from the Golf Committee Shelter House funds for hooks to hang the curtains at the shelter house. February 6th, approve the Concert in the Cove concert to be held on July 3rd, 2021 from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. This concert is sponsored by the Airport Committee. February 7th, reimburse Greg Patassin $60.99 from the Garden Committee Fund for the weed torch he purchased. February 11th, pay Martin Barker Design $680 from the Communications Committee Fund for the printing of the directory. February 12th, approve the creation of a pool memorial sub-fund under the Pool Committee Fund. Those are all the 8-0 votes. Here are the 7-0 votes. February 7th, rescind the reimbursement to Greg Patassin of $60.99 from the Garden Committee Fund for the weed torch he purchased, and reimburse Greg Patassin $62.45 from the Garden Committee Fund for the weed torch. And then February 9th, reimburse Greg Patassin $60.99 from the Garden Committee Fund for the adjustable pilot and valve for the weed torch. I make a motion that we accept these e-votes.
All right, thank you,
Second.
Annie. Who seconded?
Tim?
All right, thank you, Tim. All those in favor of reaffirmation of the e-votes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. E-votes reaffirmed. Under new business, Cheryl, you have the banking resolutions.
Yep. There are three of them. The first one, the Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees at the regular meeting on February 16th, 2021, duly motioned by, I need a motion,
I'll make the motion.
We have a
It's Annie.
second.
and Mary Beth second. And by votes cast by those trustees present, approve the following resolution. Be it hereby resolved that effective immediately, the following named people are authorized signers and may conduct banking business on behalf of the Hideaway Hills Club with Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan in regard to Hideaway Hills Club bank accounts. Linda Lonsinger, President of the Board of Trustees, Jay Cabot Ray, Treasurer of the Board of Trustees, Jeffrey Harper, General Manager, Penny Johnson, Assistant General Manager. All previous resolutions are hereby null and void.
So we need a vote on this resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. The second one, the Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees at their regular meeting on February 16th, 2021, duly motioned by,
Someone
Tim
please make
Weibel?
Tim Weibel, second.
I'll second.
Second.
Mary Beth.
Mary Beth, second.
and by votes cast by those trustees present, approved the following resolution. Be it hereby resolved that effective immediately, the following named people are authorized signers and may conduct banking business on behalf of the Hideaway Hills Club with Union Savings Bank in regard to Hideaway Hills Club bank accounts. All accounts, Linda L. Lonsinger, President of the Board of Trustees, Jay Cabot Ray, Treasurer of the Board of Trustees, Jeffrey L. Harper, General Manager, and Penny Johnson, Assistant General Manager. All previous resolutions are hereby null and void.
All those in favor, please, I'm sorry. Yeah, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries for that resolution.
Okay. And the third one, the Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees at their regular meeting on February 16, 2021, duly motioned by,
Cabot Ray.
Second,
I'll second. It's Annie.
Annie.
by votes cast by those trustees present, approve the following resolution. Be it hereby resolved that effective immediately, the following named people are authorized signatures and may conduct banking business on behalf of the Hideaway Hills Club with Merchants National Bank in regards to Hideaway Hills Club bank accounts and all certificates of deposit. Jeffrey L. Harper, General Manager, Penny Johnson, Assistant General Manager, Linda L. Lonsinger, President of the Board of Trustees, Jay Cabot Ray, Treasurer of the Board of Trustees. All previous resolutions are hereby null and void.
All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
And that's it.
We conclude that. Good. All right. Next up, we have proposed voting rule change. Annie?
Yeah, so the Lakes Committee, in working with the Constitution Committee, is proposing a rule change to the boating rules, which is in your packet. And the only change is on number 20. I'll read that change right now. It's gas motors and watercraft of more than 10 feet in length are permitted on the Lake of Four Seasons only, prohibited on all other lakes. So just to kind of clarify, the reasoning they were asking for a rule change was due to a lot of complaints they received about pontoons and larger crafts being on the smaller lakes. And so they wanted to try to clarify the language so that those types of watercraft are really only on the Lake of Four Seasons. I will say that we might need to consider revising this even a little more, in that maybe 10 feet in length is not right length, because if you have a canoe and you're on the Lake of Four Seasons, you're probably going to be longer than 10 feet. So we may need to think about changing this a little bit, but I wanted to put this before the board to get feedback on it and see if you guys have some suggestions around revisions.
Well, I want to point out that that it's gas motors and 10 feet in length, longer than 10 feet in length. So a canoe and kayak would not really fit that bill.
Some canoes might be on the edge there, but I don't know if they would put a motor on them.
It would be interesting if they did.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a problem here. I guess I'm trying to understand where this is coming from. Obviously, I live on one of the lakes. I've only seen one other pontoon out there. I don't know that it's causing any problems. I'm trying to understand, why would we try to create new rules for something we don't have an issue with?
But I'm on the lake too, and the one pontoon that's out there just doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit.
Yeah, I mean it's supposed to be for kayaks and canoes, and to have a pontoon sitting there just looks out of place.
Well, I don't know that that rule's ever been there, that it's supposed to be for pontoons or for kayaks and canoes. These rules have been in place for almost 60 years, and now we're trying to change them, and I just don't think there's a good reason why.
Well, I think there are some that have come to the Lakes Committee and complained, and I think one of the complaints has arisen from a watercraft on Lake Eagle Claw. So there have been complaints related to that. And sometimes it's good to have a little ounce of prevention rather than that pound of cure. I don't think this hurts anyone. You would have to admit, on the small lakes, having larger craft doesn't make a lot of sense. That's what I've heard from the Lakes Committee. Annie,
Yeah.
does that comport with what you've heard?
Yeah, I was going to reiterate the same. Yep.
Do you have any other comments on this? So there is language that's proposed. Do I have a motion to accept that language?
I'd suggest we amend it to, I think the 10 feet is going to be too short for like canoes and such. I'm wondering if 15 feet, something like that would be better.
Well, okay. Again, it's gas motor and the wasn't intended to address canoes and kayaks.
So I'm a little.
So it says gas motors and watercraft. So that would include any watercraft on the Lake of the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
If a gas motor is not involved, but we are still dealing with a watercraft that's longer than 10 feet, even if it doesn't have a gas motor on it. Whereas Annie suggested amending it to 15 feet. So anything that is longer than 10 or 15 feet regardless of whether it has a gas motor or not, you're saying it's not allowed to be on any of the lakes. Is that what except for the
No,
Four Seasons?
it's not intended to address kayaks and canoes. That was a conversation that I had today with Susan Pyle. So this is just intended originally, and the only intent is to look at boats with engines and then the size of them. And actually, it was addressing pontoons, but it could be any other watercraft with an engine.
Well, so could they change the language to simply say, leave the language as they have it, but in parentheses say excluding canoes and kayaks?
Sure.
And that would take care of that and
Sure.
just clear. And then we probably need to run that. Don't we need to run this in the ECHO since it's a rule change?
Right, but
Yeah.
Probably vote on that.
yeah. And I think from my conversation with Susan Pyle, that would be fine. As a matter of fact, she mentioned something like that. So it's
Can I
up to
make a
you.
suggestion?
Sure.
For some reason I can't hear myself, but there we go. I see I'm working okay. We've got a Constitution Committee. Why don't we send it to the Constitution Committee? Let them make the
They
rule
did.
as
They
did.
did, Jim. This came from the Constitution Committee.
it did.
Yes.
It did.
When?
Oh, here recently, Jim. Why?
Well, we're trying to word a rule, and we've got a Constitution Committee that normally would bring the actual rule wording to us, and then we could vote on it.
They did. That's where this came from.
But what's the change that we're making? What's the actual wording of the change that we're making?
Could you read that, please?
So it says gas motors, and the new wording would add in the words and watercraft more than 10 feet in length are permitted on the Lake of the Four Seasons only and prohibited on all other lakes.
So that's the new wording. That's all I was concerned about at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
new wording.
Okay.
So I am okay if you want to add in, tell me what you think, add in parentheses the canoe and kayak exception. Or we can send it back to the Constitution Committee and ask them to make that simple revision.
Yeah, I'd say we send that recommendation back to the Constitution Committee and have them go through it again, and then we can bring it back in next month's meeting.
Okay, we will do that.
And that is strictly what we're actually talking about is pontoon boats, correct? Not floating docks and all of this. Am I correct on this?
Well, it came up as pontoons, but it would include watercraft with gas engines.
And anything beyond 10 feet. You know,
Yeah.
I saw a question pop up. What if you have a 12-foot boat? You probably couldn't fish and you had an engine on it. You probably couldn't fish Eagle Claw then with that boat.
With this rule, yeah.
With a gas motor, yes.
Okay.
Madam President, we've got two other questions that have come up also. The first one is there a pontoon boat on one of the small lakes?
It's my understanding that there has been.
There's one on Eagle Claw.
Yes.
Okay. And the next question is who is on the Constitution Committee?
Who is on the Constitution Committee? Greg, and he is just going to kill me because I will butcher his last name.
Trevalio.
Thank you. And Tim Kraus and myself.
And then one final question, and this is from the same person that Cabot had paraphrased. The first question was, will I not be able to fish on Eagle Claw with my 14-foot John boat? And then for clarification, the same person said with an electric motor.
The way this is worded is intended to say gas motors and watercraft longer than 10 feet.
I would suggest I would suggest that the Constitution Committee consider pontoon boats, because that seems to be the real problem here. So let them just let's put it where it is. There's a pontoon boat on Lake Eagle Claw that literally should not be there. So and I'm just suggesting that we limit that to pontoon boats. Okay, so a guy's got a John boat. It's a fishing boat. It's got an electric motor on it. I don't see a big problem with that. I agree with you. We sure don't want a 24-foot pontoon boat rolling around the lake, whether it's got an electric motor or not. But as long as we're keeping it to pontoon boats, I don't have a problem with it. But I don't want to get it so spread out that, well, you know what I'm saying. I'm looking for.
What do you do if you get like jet skis over there now? They're watercraft that are gas motored.
They're gas motors. I'm not saying
Hmm.
gas motors needs to be in there, because we don't need gas motors on those lakes.
That's a big key.
It's always been my understanding that gas motors were prohibited on the small lakes to begin with.
They work. Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
So, there's even kayaks longer than 10 foot.
That's why I wanted to suggest maybe 10 feet isn't long enough.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And somebody just asked a question, and I think the reason why we wouldn't want on a small lake like Eagle Claw, we wouldn't want a bunch of pontoon boats running around there is because of safety issues. I mean, I don't know. What's the answer to that?
well, I think
Question,
safety
yeah, but
issues,
it's hardly a safety issue.
For people swimming in a small lake like that, or, for whatever reason.
they weren't really meant to be, the smaller lakes, I've always been told, and it was brought up by the Lakes Committee today, they were intended for fishing, swimming,
Okay.
canoeing, kayaking, not to have gas engines and big boats on them. That has always been the Lake of Four Seasons.
Yeah, for people living there, it's aesthetically not pleasing. To have all
Right.
kinds of pontoon boats on that lake would ruin it.
Anyway, so we have our charge, and this will be brought back to the board. Okay. Do we have any new members, Cheryl?
There are no new members this month.
All right, thank you. At this point, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn to executive session. And then once we're in executive session, we'll discuss our items, then we'll bring it back into open session. So with the motion to adjourn, I would also like to add, we'll take a short break, 5-minute break, and then return. So motion to adjourn to executive session, please.
I'll make that motion.
All right, thanks, Tom. Second?
Tim Weibel, second.
Thanks, Tim. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
And this is
We're
Jeff. I'm going to
adjourned.
go ahead and pause recording so we don't take up any more space than necessary.
All right, thank you.
All right, recording has been restarted.
Okay, we're back. Update from the executive session. The board was provided a review of the pending Article 9. There was a request for an extension of a remedy, and that request was granted until March 15th. A review of the incentive, bonus incentive plan for the general manager occurred, and it was approved. And I think that's all. Does anyone have anything to add before we get a motion to adjourn? All right. Seeing none, thank you for your help tonight. and look forward to seeing you all soon. Motion, please.
I motion to adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Love you.